Night shift really do take a huge toll on your body. You're gonna feel it. And like at some point, like we all have to make a conscious decision, night shift nurses, to just let it go and move to the other side. If a patient is confused and want to turn up, it doesn't matter if it's daytime or nighttime, they will turn up.
You'll never meet another person as mentally tough as you. Your entire life. And he hasn't.
Hello everyone, it's your girl Florence and welcome back to my channel. And this video is going to be a day shift versus night shift video. I'm going to break down some of the pros and cons of both day shift and night shift so you guys can have a better understanding and help you guys, upcoming nurses, decide which shift that you guys want. And if you're a current nurse, let me know if I'm right about some of these pros and cons and share in the comments below which shift that you prefer better. Without further ado, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We're gonna get straight into this video. Before I get into day shift and night shift separately, I just wanna talk about the nurse's schedule as a whole. So typically nurses work 12-hour shift, 3 days a week. And depending on your hospital and how they calculate the hours, you might work a week in the month where it's 4 days instead of 3 days. So for example, in my hospital, in order to complete the entire 40 hours a week, because 3 days a week is only 36. 1 week out of the month, we have a 4-day week. So that week out of that month or schedule period, we work 4 days instead of 3. And that 4-day week comprised with the other weeks of 3 days a week pretty much makes up a full-time schedule of 40 hours a week. Some hospitals do it differently where full-time is just that 36 hours and you don't need to complete 40 hours that week. There are also some hospitals where they don't do 12-hour shifts, they do 8-hour shifts. So they'll do like a morning shift from 7 to 3, then they'll have it 3 to 11, and they'll have 11 to 7. So those 8-hour shifts, they have to obviously work more days in the week. So overall, a lot of hospitals and facilities are pushing towards just 12-hour shifts as opposed to 8-hour shift, just because there's been many studies done that have shown that nurses working 12-hour shifts as opposed to 8 just improves patient outcomes. Now we're gonna get into day shift versus night shift. I'm gonna start off with day shift. So we're gonna go with the pros first. And of course, the first pro is a regular sleep schedule, regular lifestyle, and that's the first pro. So you work in the daytime, you come home at night, you go to sleep, you wake up the next day, if you are scheduled to work the next day, and you go to work. So you have that regular schedule. For the most part, more than 90% of the world have this work schedule, so you get to be on the same schedule as your friends that work 9 to 5s. You get to be on the same schedule with your family members that work 9 to 5s. You get to be on the same schedule with your children that go to school in the daytime or home at nighttime. So the next pro about day shift, and this is more like the nursing clinical side of things, is that you're more involved in the patient's plan of care. So in the day shift, obviously the patient is awake more, and you also get to participate in this thing called rounds. So during rounds, you typically do it in the morning, a few minutes after the morning shift started, where you get to meet with the doctors, the social workers, all the nurses, the PAs, the MPs. You get to all meet and just break down the plan of care for the patients. And that's something that only happens in the daytime. It doesn't happen at night. So if you're day shift, you get to be all in. So okay, this is what the doctor is doing, this is what the PAs are planning, this is the patient's gonna go for X, Y, and Z testing, the plan for discharge is this day. The social worker gets to tell you, okay, we're setting up the nursing home for this person, we setting up rehab for this person. Another pro is, along with that, is there's more access to staff. The doctors are there during the daytime, the social worker is there during the daytime, you have more management in the daytime, the social worker is in the daytime, the educators there. We do have staff in the night, educators also there at nighttime, but you just have more access to those resources in the daytime. The next pro about day shift, and I don't know if it's just me and I'm just fat, but the cafeteria, that has to be a pro of day shift that I definitely miss, that I don't get in the night shift. Access to food and just more food options in the daytime is just a pro. And you don't see this a pro till you work night shift and there's nothing to eat besides Dunkin' Donuts, if you even work near a facility that has a Dunkin' Donuts nearby. Luckily my hospital has a Dunkin' Donuts that's 24 hours, but then you eat like crap. You eat Dunkin' every single time you feel hungry. We don't have a cafeteria at nighttime, and that's something that we really need to look into, because it's just not okay. It's not okay to only have Dunkin' as a food option in the nighttime. Ridiculous. So selfish. The last pro for day shift is you get the chance to prove yourself. So there's a lot of management around and educators around in the daytime. So if you're really trying to level up and let your managers know that like, yo, I'm that nurse that's doing what she got to do. I'm ready to be a charge nurse. I'm ready to precept. I want you to see me. You get more of a chance to do that in the daytime because there's more management around us. Now we're gonna move on to some cons for day shift. Day shift, I don't really have too many cons for, but the two that I did write down is that less salary. So obviously night shift get paid more than day shifts. That's the obvious one. And the next thing I have is that it could get very busy and very hectic really quickly. And that might not necessarily be a bad thing because you get a chance to learn more, you get to build a lot of skills. But if you're somebody that can't really like thrive under pressure or gets overwhelmed easily, it could get really, really overwhelming very, very quickly. So it is like a greater burnout rate in the day shift for sure. Now we're going to move on to night shift. Some of the pros for night shift, and I'm going to start off with the obvious, like I mentioned for day shift, the money. You do get a night shift differential, and in my hospital, the differential is about $3 to $4. I think around that range. I think it's almost $4. And that's an hour. So on average, if you add that up for like the year, it amounts to maybe like $6,000, maybe $7,000, maybe $8,000, I don't know. The next pro is like, take it with like a grain of salt because everybody says this and everybody think it's true, but it's not always the case. So I'm gonna explain this a little bit further. But the next pro that a lot of people say about night shift is that it is less hectic and less busy. And let's break that down because that offends me sometimes because people think that, oh, the patients are asleep, they're just chilling, there's nothing to do. No, if a patient is confused and want to turn up, it doesn't matter if it's daytime or nighttime, they will turn up. And that's just what it is. Like, people could code at any time of the night. Your heart is not going to be selective and say that I'm gonna start beating only at 9 a.m. today, so only day shift is going to be able to do CPR. Like, that is not a true statement to make. It is true that in some sense that like taking patients to testing and like procedures and stuff doesn't happen at nighttime. And if that's what we're talking about, less hectic, yeah, that's what I would agree with. It is that less of a stress to get patients transported. But at the end of the day, if a patient needs a stat CT scan, you'll have to take them. So we still have to transport patients to places. But it could be just as busy in the night shift as the day shift. Now, I will say you do have more of a chance to have more downtime to talk to your patients, or like have more downtime to like connect with your patients, or have more downtime to like read through your patient's charts and like chart and like have that downtime. That's more likely to happen in night shift than day shift, but it's not always necessarily true that like, yeah, it's not busy in the nighttime and like the patients are sleeping. That's a myth. Let's get rid of that, because at the end of the day, patients that will sleep in the daytime will be awake in the nighttime, and clinical issues could happen at any point in time. Our bodies do not control when we're going to have any type of like clinical crisis. So next pro that I have is teamwork. Nobody's teamwork in the hospital is more immaculate than a night shift team. Like, and that's something that I hear not just from my hospital, but like a lot of other hospitals. My night shift crew, like, we are like this. Like, we always work together, we always help each other out. And it does make a difference in the nursing world to have a shift or like a group of people that you're working with or fellow coworkers that are like willing to help. That makes all the difference in the nursing world. So that's something that I'm very appreciative of. The next pro that I have is like, y'all might not appreciate this, but it's really like the little things. So it's just like less traffic when you're going into work, parking, so you don't have to pay for parking, because at that point all the 9 to 5s have went home, and if you come in at like 6 or 7 o'clock, you just get that parking space, and that makes a difference. Like, last pro that I have is the fact that you get to sleep in. Like, I've been waking up early all my life, so the fact that I get to sleep in after I wake up at 5:30 or 6 o'clock, like I've been doing since I turned 3 and started school, is just like immaculate, and I appreciate that. Now we're gonna move on to some cons of night shift. So obviously the main con is the abnormal schedule. So you up in the nighttime, you sleep during the day. Obviously in your off days you can try to have a normal schedule, but just that abnormal schedule and sleep pattern, that whole idea where like everybody is asleep and you're awake, and you're awake and everybody is asleep, like you feel like a zombie some days because you're on a complete different wavelength than everybody else. So that's definitely the number one con, just that abnormal schedule that's different from everybody else. It's like you live in your own world with just yourself sometimes. The next con that I have is just the physical effects that night shift has on your body. Like, your body sometimes just feels so drained. Like, you could just tell that you're just not functioning the same. And it's just like, A lot of night shifters kind of like move past, like, we get used to it, but you really never get used to it. Like, you just eat bad because there's just no reason why I'm eating a full-blown dinner at 3 o'clock a.m. on my break. Like, you just feel like you're doing something so wrong to your body. Like, night shift really do take a huge toll on your body, and you're gonna feel it. And like, at some point, like, we all have to make a conscious decision, night shift nurses, to just let it go and move to the other side. The next con that I have, which was a pro for day shift but now a con for night shift, is access to staff. You just don't have as many staff members in the nighttime. The last con that I have for night shift is just that it's sometimes a lot more difficult to get things done. Like, patients do not want to be waking up at nighttime. Like, and as nurses, you still have to do what you have to do. At the end of the day, you're in the hospital because you need to get taken care of. So as much as patients don't want to get their vital signs taken at 3 o'clock in the morning, we have to kind of do it. So we kind of get that pushback just because, again, the rest of the world operates in the daytime, and you have to constantly explain to patients why you're waking them up at 12 o'clock, at 3 o'clock, or 4 o'clock to draw labs, to get a blood pressure, to give medications, or whatever the case might be. And that's basically it for this video. Let me know if I missed anything. Let me know if you work day shift or night shift. If you're an incoming nursing student or current nursing student, let me know what shift you're feeling better, day shift or night shift. That's basically it for this video, and I'll see you all in my next video.